Hi, home sewist. I have an important question for you, and that is, do you think that AI and companies like SHEIN are going to replace home sewing in the next few years? No matter what your answer is, I am so curious to hear your thoughts on this, because as a person in the sewing world, I've noticed a lot of changes happening lately that are both exciting and also kind of scary. And so I'm so curious to hear what you think, as you're obviously watching this video because you have some kind of interest in sewing. So I'm just so curious what you think. And there's so many ways to look at this topic that I just wanted to take a really a deep dive into it for a little while and just discuss this with you. So if you have a second, stick around and let's just explore what the state of sewing is right now. So if you're not familiar, I am Tessa and I work at Love Notions Sewing Patterns, and me and my sister Tammy create digital sewing patterns for a home sewist. And as you can imagine, throughout the past few years, there have been a lot of changes and developments inside of the sewing world. Some are incredible. For example, projector sewing. What an innovation. What a great thing to happen to the sewing world. There's also been a lot of other things that have happened. We've noticed that a lot of pattern companies are closing their doors right now. That's not the case for us. We are going strong and actually have hit our projections, and for whatever reason, we just have been so lucky to have this business thrive. And so thank you in no small part to all of the people that watch our videos and sew our patterns and participate in our groups, and we're just so thankful for you. But we've noticed that there's been some changes. Some fabric shops have closed down. Some, Joann's declared bankruptcy. There have been so many developments that have been happening in the sewing world, lots of ups and downs. And this is funny coming from, during the midst of 2020, sewing was in a huge boom. Everybody was getting a sewing machine and sewing masks, and then they were saying, hey, what can I sew after a mask? I'd like to try my hand at sewing clothes. And so we saw lots of fluctuations throughout the years. Okay. Breaking news, speaking of major updates in the sewing world, you're going to want to hear about the latest with the Laundry Day Tee from Love Notions. This is the pattern that started it all for many of us. It was the gateway drug, if you will, into sewing and especially into Love Notions. This was the pattern that we at Love Notions used as a freebie to entice people to try us out. And people love this swingy style tee, dress and tunic pattern. It had many different collars. Great sewing pattern, people love it. Well, as times are changing, our knit tee pattern collection is getting a whole glow up. And part of that means saying goodbye to Love Notions Laundry Day Tee as the freebie in our collection. That is, the Love Notions Laundry Day Tee will only be free for the next few days. So if you have not already joined our email and newsletter list or join our Facebook pattern support group, then you need to do that right now so that you can get the code to make the Laundry Day Tee free. This is a pattern that is beloved. I actually just made the announcement a little bit ago for our Facebook support group, and just hundreds of comments pouring in about how the Laundry Day Tee changed their sewing life. Just look at some of these comments here. And you can still get the Laundry Day Tee for free for just a few more days when you find the code that is in our newsletter subscription pop-up, as well as in our Facebook sewing support group. So things are changing, and you can watch the rest of this video to see how Love Notions is changing with the times and what our overall take is on the sewing world right now. But before next week's 40% off sale, go get the Laundry Day Tee for free for the last time ever. Throughout the years. And one of the things that's happening is, I think, a challenge to our world in the sewing world right now is this introduction of AI, artificial intelligence, as well as companies like SHEIN, which can mass produce clothing on a huge scale. So the way that we shop and the way that we sew has dramatically changed. Let's talk for a second about how we've changed when it comes to sewing. And while it might feel like this is like an ancient skill that, how much could it have changed over the years? I think that if you just take a second to realize we're using PDF patterns, we're using computers, we're using tablets, we're using phones to access those tutorials, we are using printers to print out the patterns, we are, for the average home sewist, we're not draping on a mannequin right now. For the most part, we are accessing a digital pattern and using digital tools to create those clothes. We're shopping online for those the fabric and the patterns. And so the whole process has really, really changed. So the way that we connect with other sewists, the way that we learn to sew. How many of us have learned to sew because we watched YouTube tutorials? How many of us don't know anyone else in our lives that sews, that we learned it online? And so the entire art of sewing and how we've acquired this skill and how we actually involve ourselves in the process, it's changed dramatically. And so I think this is gonna be another situation where sewing as an art form is not gonna go away, but we're gonna adapt and adjust. And clearly, Love Notions is along for the ride with you because we're so interested in supporting home sewing. We're interested in meeting home sewists where they're at and providing them the patterns, the sewing support, the community that people need to thrive in a sewing world. So one of the changes that is coming into our world, one of these new modern technologies that people are using is AI, artificial intelligence. And you, I'm sure, have seen all of the info about ChatGPT and Gemini and Bard and these generative artificial intelligence tools. I'm sure most of the websites that you access have some kind of chat involved in them, and a lot of that uses AI. And fun fact, Love Notions just installed one of those on the website. We're actually in the process of trying to come up with a name for it right now. I think we might do like a contest for it. So keep your eye out for that, and let us know in the comments if you have a great idea for our chatbot. It's a cute little like thread icon, and if you use the chatbot on the Love Notions website, let me know. There have been some limitations with it, but for the most part, it's pretty great. It's kind of incredible what it can do. And this is what I'm talking about with artificial intelligence. It can be so useful. And I think there are a ton of ways to make use of it in sewing. And we're going to be coming up with a few ways that sewists have been using AI to be more productive with sewing, to get better results, to have more fun. And if you have any specific ways that you're using AI right now, perhaps you're on ChatGPT or another tool or have like one of those agent things, I would love to know how you are using that in your sewing world right now, because I think it's going to be similar to like projector sewing. Like, what a tool, what an innovation, what a way to make things accessible to everybody and to bring sewing to more people. So how are you using AI in your sewing world right now? Please tell me what you're doing. I have 4 or 5 ways that I'm using it right now that I think would make a great future video, but I am so curious to hear how you're using it right now. So please drop a comment with that below, okay? And I think that with the rise of AI and with the rise of companies like SHEIN and these mass producing companies for clothing, I think there's some limitations though. And let's talk about 3 that I'm seeing right now that I think are all reasons why I think home sewing is never gonna go away. It might change, but I don't think home sewing is ever gonna go away. And here's 3 reasons why. Number 1, It all starts with my daughter. My daughter is 13 years old and she is so into clothes and her personal style right now. And I will sew for her when she asks for it, which is great. But right now she is really focused on ready-to-wear clothes, and that's fine. She is really interested in shopping online, and so for the first time ever, we shopped on SHEIN. And she like carefully reviewed everything. She looked at the pictures. She looked at the information on, and she wanted this pair of oversized sweatpants. And we looked at the SHEIN website and they were like, I don't know, like $3.40. How is that a real price? So we did it. We purchased it along with this cute little pair of pajamas. And they arrived like 2 weeks later or so. She had almost forgotten what she had ordered. And the total package, I think she spent like $11 or something. And this was a case of you get what you pay for, because they were terrible. They were scratchy. They didn't fit whatsoever. They looked terrible. And I can only imagine what the conditions were in order to create that piece of clothing. In order to mass produce something like that, I can only imagine how that all worked. It did not work for her. And the pajamas, kind of same thing. They fit okay, I guess, but the fabric was terrible, scratchy, awful, and I wonder how that process will be able to improve in the future. But in the meantime, we're not going to be shopping on SHEIN again, because you get what you pay for. And the other part of this whole mass production issue and this idea of fast fashion is the overconsumption of it all. When things are so cheap and the styles are changing so quickly from one day to the next, like we're just acquiring things and not getting any value back in return. So while we did spend like $11 or whatever it was, I didn't get anything that was wearable. We wasted our money in that case. And I'm sure that other people have success and have great results with certain things, but I don't think I'm gonna be taking that chance again anytime soon. So what's my overall point here? Why am I even talking about all this? Well, I think it's all related to sewing, and I just wanted to in this final section here, give you my 2 cents on what I think the state of the sewing world is and where I think it's going. And I think my overall takeaway is that modern sewists need to adjust to a modern world of sewing, but I'm so encouraged by the daily stories that I hear of sewists who have had incredible success with their sewing projects at home. That even though they are a beginner, not an expert, that they have been able to create things that not only fit and feel great, but the process itself was filling, encouraging. It made them feel like they had accomplished something. And those are all things that AI, I don't think is gonna be able to replicate anytime soon. There is something about having your hand on the thing that you are making from start to finish. And AI and SHEIN just can't do that right now. So I encourage you as a home sewist that when it comes to modern technologies, to take the good and leave the bad. And I highly encourage you to take a look at your feelings when you finish up a sewing project. How did that make you feel? How did it feel to know that you were the one that did those stitches and you were the one that put that all together? And examine that sense of pride that comes from knowing where your garment came from start to finish. And even just knowing your body and knowing your sizing and your personal adjustments and the sense of accomplishment that comes with that. So to end up this video, just a couple things I'd love for you to do. Number one, Leave me a comment about how you think about AI and sewing and the possibilities that are there. Number 2, I'd love to hear what you think about modern technologies and sewing in general. Like, do you think I'm off base? Do you think this is true? What do you think about modern sewing in a digital age? And number 3, please go take a look at the Love Notions website and try out our chat bot. I think you might have some fun with it, and please let me know your suggestion for a name. And number 4, last but not least, one of the ways that we've been able to continue to thrive in the sewing world is because we provide quality, excellent PDF sewing patterns. And you should know that from October 7th to the 11th, we are having our annual once a year 40% off flash fall sale. So October 7th through the 11th of 2024, we are having our 40% off. This is the highest discount that we ever give for our patterns. So it's a great time to stock up on projects that will last you from fall through winter, or whatever season that you're gonna be going into. It's a great time to acquire some of those. And if you need any suggestions on projects and patterns that you think, that I might think would be great for you, please ask in the comments, okay? The other thing that you should know is that with that sale, the only pattern that's not going to be included is the Bandcamp patterns that just released. But all of the courses are going to be included. And we have a really special surprise coming for you. Speaking of the human touch, there's a really, really special surprise coming that I think you are going to love. It includes a huge freebie, and there will be more details on that. So make sure that you subscribe and stay in touch with us. And just remember that the human touch, whether it comes to your sewing or whether it comes about learning about sewing or your clothing, whatever it is, the human touch is not to be underestimated when it comes to our world in a modern digital age. Bye.